Well, we have the first interview today. His new book is out, and it's called Secret Empires, How the American Political Class Hide Corruption and Enrich Family and Friends, asking very hard questions about past and current elected officials who are bilking the system. How are you? Good to see you again.
Great to be here with you, Sean. Thanks for having me.
Listen, the bottom line here is the amount of corruption and personal enrichment is breathtaking. Give a broad overview, and then we'll get to the specifics.
Well, a lot of times when people think of corruption, Sean, they think of, Congressman Jefferson, who had the $90,000 cash in his refrigerator.
Yeah. I remember. I forgot about it. Now I remember.
Exactly. Cold, hard cash Jefferson, they called him. That is peanuts compared to what we're talking about. We're talking about people at the highest levels of government, for example, the Obama administration, whose family members are getting juiced into multi-billion with a B dollar deals from foreign governments. So, gone are the days of the shoeboxes full of cash. We're now talking about large private equity deals of $1 billion or more that are enriching people on a massive scale. And of course, there are strings attached with that money. And I think it's undermining the decision making in the country.
Let's first name, and maybe take this logically, the big, most corrupt people you're exposing in this book. Obama. George Soros, by the way, plays a big role in this book. Also Biden and Kerry, and I'll let you name McConnell and his wife and others.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, to take one example, involving the Secretary of State during the Obama administration, John Kerry, and the Vice President, Biden. You had the sons of those two individuals set up something called the Rosemont Seneca Partners, which was a company they set up in 2009. And basically, Chris Hines, who's the stepson of John Kerry, put up half the money. But the two main players were a guy named Devin Archer, who was a longtime aide and confidant of Kerry, and Hunter Biden, the son of the vice president. And what basically happens is that Hunter Biden in 2013 of December flies over on Air Force Two with his father as his father is sitting down and dealing with Chinese officials on the South China Sea, trade issues, etc.
By the way, just one interruption here. If it was Ivanka Trump, watch out. Go ahead, explain this.
Exactly.
He flies with his father on Air Force Two, which I'm cool with. He's allowed to bring his family. Okay.
Yeah, it's not the trip, it's the aftermath that's bothersome. Now on that trip, the Vice President Biden is criticized for going soft on the Chinese. And what you find out is 10 days later when they leave, Hunter Biden secures what becomes a $1.5 billion private equity deal with a government bank in China. Now, Hunter Biden, let's be clear about this. Hunter Biden was a lobbyist before his father was vice president. He does not have background in private equity. He has no background in China. The other individual involved in this is Devin Archer, who is a co-chair of the finance committee for John Kerry's 2004 campaign, also has little experience in private equity. And they get this $1.5 billion in Chinese money to invest in companies, essentially buying assets in the United States and around the world to benefit the Chinese government.
So 10 days after Biden and his son go to China, on a trip where Biden is viewed as being weak and easy on the Chinese government, his own son's firm scores $1.5 billion deal with a Bank of China for basically Chinese investors to invest in America. And how much money are they making in all of this? Lunch Bucket Joe, I think you referred to him in the book.
That's right. That's the problem, Sean. We don't know because there's no disclosure requirements. I mean, think about this for a second.
Because he's using his son.
That's right. So this is what's breathtaking. If Joe Biden as vice president gets a $1,500 campaign contribution, he's required to disclose it. If his son gets a $1.5 billion private equity deal from the Chinese government, there's no disclosure requirement. And that's the problem. And here's what happens, Sean. That's not even the worst part of the story. There are two other deals involving these entities, involving Hunter Biden, involving Devin Archer, involving the Chinese government as well. You've got this offshore account called Rosemont Seneca Technology Partners. Chinese government puts $38 million into that. Rosemont, name sounds familiar. Again, you've got Hunter Biden and you've got Devin Archer. Third deal, Rosemont Realty, a real estate firm owned by Chris Hines, Hunter Biden, and involving them. The Chinese come in and buy that as well with a promise of $3 billion to be invested in this real estate company. This is all occurring in the context of these fathers negotiating with the Chinese government.
You call it in the book corruption by proxy.
Right.
So explain it in more detail and explain specifically, this deal, the other family deal.
Yeah,
because it's also John Kerry's kid.
Yeah, well, so here's the bottom line, Sean. The bottom line is that the corruption laws in the United States are very clear. If you are a politician and I want a favor from you, whether I give money to you or I give money to your son to try to get access or favorable treatment, that could constitute a crime if there's a quid pro quo. And yet the disclosure requirements in the United States do not require the disclosure of financial ties involving immediate family members. And that's a huge part of the problem. But there are national security implications for this, Sean, too. So this $1.5 billion the Chinese government gives Hunter Biden to invest. One of the companies they invest in, Sean, as an anchor investor is called CGN, China General Nuclear. So already this is an atomic power company. What a lot of people won't realize is they invest in this. Less than a year later, the FBI charges CGN with stealing nuclear secrets in the United States. And what this company that now remember, Hunter Biden's involved in this, Devin Archer's involved in this. This company is trying to get access to something called the AP-1000 nuclear reactor, which is a small civilian nuclear reactor that's similar to the reactor that we put on our nuclear subs.
But it's not just Biden and his family. I mean, look at John Kerry, his adopted son, if I recall properly. And, again, in both instances, you have Biden as vice president, then you have John Kerry as Secretary of State negotiating sensitive deals and issues with the Chinese government at the time that all of these deals are benefiting their family, which it goes back to my original point about proxy. This is corruption by proxy.
Yeah, I mean, corruption by proxy is exactly the charge. And you have these three major deals that are occurring between 2013 and 2016 when all of this is going down. And this goes to the heart of the issue. I mean, if we're worried about a PAC contribution from, let's say, an oil company influencing a politician, we should be concerned about major, large private equity deals that are being done with the children of powerful American politicians. And that's, I think, the key. That's, I think, the key element, and we need to change those laws.
And the great irony in this is it's not just China, because you have a whole area devoted to Russia and the influence. You talk specifically about this oligarch, I forget his particular name.
Kolomoisky, yes.
Which he was barred entrance into the U.S. because of legal concerns and activities in the Ukraine. I hope Paul Manafort's lawyers are listening. But in 2015, after Biden and Archer joined the board, that all changed. And with the intervention of the U.S. Embassy in Kiev, he was given admission back to the United States. Why was he given? What did they get in return?
Well, that's a great question. So, Devin Archer and Hunter Biden get around because in addition to China, they go over to the Ukraine and they connect up with this controversial oligarch named Igor Kolomoisky. Now, he is the most controversial of all the Ukrainian oligarchs, and that says something, Sean, because you know how things are in that part of the world.
Have any of these people heard of Paul Manafort and his work in the Ukraine?
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. But what's amazing about Kolomoisky is this is a guy who says to Hunter Biden and Devin Archer, this former Kerry aide, I want you to come and be advisors to me in this energy company. We don't know how much they get paid, but you can bet it's a lot. They're not going to go and work for a Ukrainian company without getting well compensated. But not only does he get to be readmitted back into the United States, but you also have this other scandal, Sean. Now think about this. Igor Kolomoisky has the son of the vice president and a close aide, former aide, to John Kerry on the payroll. The United States and the Obama administration takes $1.8 billion in aid through the IMF and sends it to the Ukraine using Privat Bank, which is owned by Igor Kolomoisky. $1 billion of that in the bank disappears. It's gone. It goes away. Nobody knows where it goes. And there are a lot of groups in the Ukraine who think that Kolomoisky somehow was involved potentially in having that money disappear. Well, that investigation is basically squelched in the Ukraine. And here's the curious thing, Sean, to show you how intertwined all of this is. The day before Donald Trump was inaugurated in January of 2017, of all the places in the world, where was Vice President Joe Biden? He was in the Ukraine. He was in the Ukraine meeting with Ukrainian officials, basically talking to them about corruption issues, while, of course, his son and this former aide are involved.
Unbelievable. All right, just to prove that we're fair and balanced, I really want to get into